What's going on, YouTube? Legend here once again. This time at you again with some more Honkai Star Rail, and it is time. It's time to talk about Black Swan. Yes, the illustrious, the beautiful Black Swan. She's coming real soon. Actually, as of tomorrow, the live stream for 2.0 should be coming, and we're gonna be learning all about her. And I can't wait, and I hope you can't wait either. But I know a lot of you have in the back of your mind thinking, oh man, I love Black Swan. She's beautiful, she's great, she has a lot of assets, but does it make sense to have her on my account? Does it make sense to have her on my team if I don't have Kafka? Well, I'm here to answer that question for you guys. In order to answer that question and give you guys some clarity, I'm going to explain a few things about Black Swan so you guys can understand, to make sure so you know what decision you want to make when it comes to your account, okay? But right off the bat, I'm going to try and answer the question. Make it simple for you guys. Is she good without Kafka? Yes, she is. She can be used without Kafka. It's not a waste to get her without Kafka. That is okay, but having Kafka with her would be real nice. All right, it's a really good matchup. It's a really good pairing, and it's really nice to have her with Kafka. Okay, but you don't need it in order for her to work. But to give you guys some more clarity here, let's go over her kit. So, as you guys know, Black Swan is an agility wind unit. And the type of agility she is that she revolves around dots, for those of you who didn't understand that by now here. And she has a regularly high base attack, so she's doing good there. In her kit, she has this talent, this ability called Arcana, right? And during beta, they changed the name over a couple times. This is what they call it Sacrament. I think they call it Arcana now. But just so you know, if you hear Sacrament or Arcana, just know that it's the same thing I'm talking about here. Arcana is essentially wind shear, okay? It's wind shear damage, but it's able to stack up through numerous ways. And when it stacks up, it's able to activate different abilities, and it stacks up the damage that it does. Abilities that it does have is that, let's say if it has 3 or more stacks, it is able to do kind of like an AoE or more so like a blast dot effect. So it's able to attack adjacent enemies and can also attach Arcana on those enemies. And then when it has 7 or more stacks, then it's able to ignore 20% defense. Beautiful thing. But there's many ways in order to attach this Arcana onto the enemy. So you have her basic attack. Her basic attack puts Arcana onto the enemy, kind of like how Sampo does it. You know, you do your basic attack on the enemy, it has a set amount of chance. I'm not going to go over the specific numbers. I'm going to let that be officially given, but it has a certain base chance in order to be able to attach the Arcana on the enemy, right? But then the skill does that too, except it does it in a blast effect, right? So the adjacent targets. But also what it's going to be able to do is it's also going to be able to shred the enemy's defense by 20%. Now this right here, this is a big part of why I think that she's going to work good without Kafka too, because that's a universal debuff right there. Everybody can take advantage of that. So even though we have someone like Pella who can do 40%, I mean, she's not only doing that, so it kind of becomes a pretty good mechanic there, right? So, but as you know, she has 7 stacks herself. Then she's ignoring 20%, and then she's shredding another 20%, which is another fantastic thing. But the thing is, when it comes to her Arcana stacks, is that they reset every single time it becomes time to the enemy's turn. But her burst, which is an AoE ability, so it hits all enemies, it keeps it from resetting, so it allows the stacks to continuously pile up. So this is a good reason as why you want to make her fast, because you want her to go multiple times before the enemy is able to go, because that's going to be a great thing right there. So yeah, so as you can see, her kit definitely revolves around these Arcana stacks, these Sacrament stacks, and able to get these stacks as high as you can, because when you get these stacks high, they're gonna hit, and they're gonna hit hard, especially when you're buffing her in a way to have her as the main damage dealer. Then yeah, she's gonna be, you can be using her as a hyper carry and such, kind of like how you can use Kafka as a hyper carry, and she's gonna be able to be doing good damage, right? So you don't have to use Kafka in those situations when you're buffing her like that, because her dots are gonna be able to do a really good job. They're gonna do a great job. So, and because of this, because of different things she can do, she can be flexible too. You can use her as a sub DPS, right? You can use her sub DPS on the team, where she is shredding the enemy's defenses. She's adding these Arcana stacks, so she's doing her own damage. alongside with other DPS. So even though she's not shredding his defense as much as Silver Propeller, she's adding her own damage to make up for that, which I think is a great thing right there. And keep in mind too, let's say if she breaks, usually dot units do pretty good when it comes to breaking enemies. So that's even more dots right there stacked on top, right? So you can use her as a sub DPS with someone who's not a dot unit. Her kit works best when you use her with dot units too. So you can use her in just teams where you put Kafka, just put Black Swan there instead, and it's going to be able to do some good damage. But here's one thing that I do want to emphasize when it comes to having her without Kafka and have her work really well. And that is her E1. Her E1 is fantastic, and I wanted to talk about it here because her light cone is great, her E1 is great. So a lot of people are going to be thinking, oh man, do I go for E1, do I go for S1? And maybe I might make a video about that to talk about that more in depth. But I'm going to tell you right here is that her E1 is fantastic, and that opens a lot of doors for her, because what her E1 does is essentially does what Ron May's burst does, where if you have a certain dot on the enemy, that element resistance is going to be shredded by 25%. That's fantastic. So let's say you're using her with Blade. That is going to be a wonderful thing because she puts the wind shear on herself. So she's taking down 20% defense. She's attaching wind shear onto the enemy, and she's taking 25% wind resistance down. That's going to be a huge boost for Blade teams, right? But then let's say you want to use it with Himiko. Okay, well fine, you can put her with Himiko. So Himiko could put burn on the enemy, and when Himiko puts that burn on the enemy, guess what? Now 25% red shred is taken off. You could put, Gwenfin on there, maybe throw her with Topaz. There's different things you can do this to make sure you put those dots on the enemy and then and be able to use that. And it creates new team comps for that, where you can use DPSs and dots alongside each other. And it opens up all these new different things. So that's another way where you can really use Black Swan's kit in a way where it's not, because as you can see, there's a lot of different options. So people who are scared that she's only going to be useful with Kafka, you can rest your worries there. But I do want to say one thing though. I do want to say something when it comes to my true and honest recommendation, because this information is definitely for people who really want Black Swan, but they just can't have Kafka right now, and that's okay. You can do that. But when I say, if you're trying to decide between this character, because we're getting pummeled with characters, right? And if you're on the fence with a lot of these characters, I'm going to tell you right now, I still don't fully recommend Black Swan if you don't have Kafka, because Kafka brings out her full potential, right? She helps her get those Arcana stacks up. She's constantly getting those wind shears going. They're helping each other a lot, and that the Kafka and Black Swan team is really going to be competing with the top tier teams that we're going to be having in the near future and now. So when you're trying to choose between, okay, Black Swan or Sparkle, Black Swan or Acheron or Black Swan or Adventurine or whoever else we're going to be getting in the near future, when you're trying to kind of weigh these options and you don't have Kafka, I feel that Black Swan does fall behind a little bit against these other options. When you got Sparkle coming right next, I'm not going to put Black Swan above Sparkle without Kafka right there, right? But if you have Kafka and you have dot teams, and Sparkle being as cracked as she's going to be amazing. But now it's kind of more of an equal choice when it comes to be Black Swan and Sparkle if you have dot teams. So that's kind of my 2 cents right there. That's kind of my recommendation. When it comes to, if you have Kafka, then I feel that Black Swan is up there on a top pick for you. If you don't have Kafka, she's not as much of a top pick. But if you do want her, if you are excited to get her, if you're like, hey, I want her, but I don't have Kafka, is it even worth it? Well, then yeah, there's many ways you can use her, and she's going to be great without her right there. So that's kind of my recommendation right there. But let me know what you guys think. Was that clear enough for you there? Because I hope I didn't confuse you a little bit, because that kind of sounds like I was hopping on both sides of the fence there. But essentially, Black Swan with Kafka, I highly recommend. Black Swan without Kafka, Depends on how much you want Black Swan, but I can't fully recommend without Kafka. Okay, but yeah, let me know what you guys think. Did I teach you a little bit about Black Swan and how she works and what her Tilly is going to be like? So leave your thoughts in the comments down below if you feel like there's something I didn't touch on, because I didn't go through her entire kit in detail. So if there's anything that you thought that was worth touching on that I didn't touch on, definitely leave that down in the comments down below. Like the video if you like the content, and subscribe to the channel so you can get more content like this. Without under here, Legend out.